Welcome back to another edition of the Twins Weekend Wrap. Derek Hansen with you, along with the television play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Twins, Dick Bremer. Again, brought to you by Jefferson Lions. And well, I tell you, Dick, it is amazing you're seeing the disparity of one team that the Minnesota Twins are beating up on with Baltimore, and now we get to see one of the best teams in the American League with Houston. It's quite a opposite ends of the spectrum here, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is, Derek. I mean, if you were to stack up the 15 teams in the American League, you'd have the Orioles on one end by a bunch, I think, and then marginally the Astros are considered to be probably the best team in the American League right now, even though the Tampa Bay Rays have a better record. But all you can do is control what you can control, and the fact of the matter is the Twins team right now has the second best record in the major leagues, and it's because they played really good baseball. And I suspect for the viewers or listeners, it's been fun to watch and listen to.
Yeah, I just felt it was funny, and I was listening actually yesterday. Corey just said, can you believe this? The start off the game, since they've just been bashing the ball against the Orioles time and time again, and then to have the first pitch offensively go the way of Max Kepler hitting over the fence, that just tells you the story of Baltimore versus Minnesota this year.
And how often in Twins history have we said after a game, they only hit 2 home runs today? I mean, that's what happened yesterday, but they hit 5, the day before and 5 the night before that. And the Orioles are terrible. They really are. But the Twins took care of business in winning all 6 games against them. And so now we'll see how they fare against the Astros and the Yankees this week.
Yeah, that's just it. The competition beefs up. And a quick Curry, you mentioned it, though. You got to take care of these teams. The early Ron Gardenhire years, his first couple of years, they beat up on some bad teams in the American League Central, but that's what you have to do. And the same thing when you match up against a team like that, you have to take care of business.
The Twins are going to be entering a part of the schedule here in just a little while where it's going to be heavy against American League Central teams, and of those teams, realistically, Cleveland is the only threat to the Twins winning the division. So there are, at various stages, there are 3 different rebuilding projects within the American League Central, and I suspect it'll be between Cleveland and Minnesota and who does the best job winning games against the teams that aren't expected to contend within the division.
I know I sound like a broken record, but I guess I have to ask you, are we going back to the early 90s where you're saying, boy, 1 through 7, maybe even with Buxton at the back end of this lineup, where this team is just scary offensively, especially with the long ball from 1 through 7?
Yeah, I don't think we have to go back quite that far. I remember the teams, 15 years ago, and Louis Rivas was hitting 8th or whatever. I mean, they were pretty good 1 through 9 back then, but this lineup right now, and being mindful of the fact that, this is still without Miguel Sano, who's probably going to hit somewhere, in the a month from now in the middle of this Twins lineup. This is a pretty deep lineup, and that's what you look for. You look at the teams that are really doing well out there, the Dodgers in the National League and, the Astros in the American League, and 1 through 9, it's pretty impressive, and it really makes it fun to watch because when an inning starts and you go, okay, well, we're starting with our 6th place hitter, there's still something to watch there, figuring, well, I know he's the number 6 hitter, but we still might score 2-3 runs this inning.
Especially with the long ball, too, right? I mean, the way this team is hitting home runs, not just against the Orioles, but a threat against everyone, this is really fun to watch.
Well, and, yeah, they pummeled the Orioles, 23 home runs in 6 games. They also hit 3 home runs against Jacob deGrom in 4 innings in New York and knocked him out early. So, there's something to be said for this Twins team, showing it off a lot of power, but yet, you have to understand that, coming into this Houston series against the Orioles, they hit 4 home runs, average 4 home runs a game. They may not hit 4 home runs in the Houston series at all.
Dick Bremer's with us. Again, it's the Twins Weekend Wrap, and also looking ahead to this week, brought to you by Jefferson Lions. Jefferson Lions, your number 1 bus experience for over 100 years, serving North Dakota and cities throughout the Midwest. Derek Hansen with you. And Dick, I don't know. It's so hard to say who's the guy that's maybe the MVP so far, but I think the guy who's really kind of stirring the whole drink here is Eddie Rosario. Am I wrong?
He would be my pick. Polanco's been great, but Eddie's, the big run producer in the middle of the lineup right now. And And, he can get hits and home runs in bunches. We've seen that. I think there are certain players who relish driving in runs and have the ability to drive in runs and getting producing the type of at bat that's needed to produce runs. And Eddie is that guy for me. He's hitting in the 260s, I think, something like that. But he's done an awful lot of damage with his hits, home runs and doubles, and so I do think it's kind of unfair to even ask the question, but I do think from what we've seen so far that Eddie Rosario is the key to this Twins lineup.
And I think, just think that when C.J. Cron and Nelson Cruz and these guys get going and when it gets a little bit warmer, it's scary to think that they could even be more of an offensive and home run threat.
Well, what we talked about it yesterday, I believe, during the telecast, that right now the Twins have 7 players who are scheduled or on a pace to hit 25 or more home runs. When you've got that kind of power depth in your lineup, you're going to do some damage. Now, you need to be able to score some runs in some other ways too, and that's where I think Buxton comes in. He hit his first home run yesterday, but he's been getting doubles and scoring runs on singles, and it's a fun team to watch offensively, and we'll see if they can pitch well enough to keep this team in first place all year long.
And it really comes down to that, right, is the arms, not only with the starters but the bullpens. And I guess they'll have some high-scoring games, but I do like what I'm seeing from some of these guys, and it always helps when you have a guy like Barrios who's going to give you a quality start more times than not.
And Kyle Gibson came up with his best outing. I think he's rounding into the form that we saw consistently in 2018. Martin Perez has been one of the bright spots in all of baseball with how he has pitched. And there are components in the bullpen that Twins fans should like. We've been trying to make that point over the weekend that, Trevor May and Ryan Harper and Trevor Hildenberger and, Blake Parker, they've all got different looks to them. They've got different deliveries, different variety of pitches. And I think that's what can make up for an ideal bullpen. It's not a secret, but I think Twins fans have noticed that so often the first reliever out of the bullpen is Trevor Hildenberger because his delivery is so unlike anything in the rotation, whether it be right-handed or left-handed. And so, once you get to the bullpen, look at the variety of different deliveries that the Twins relievers have. They still have to locate and all that. We know that. But I do think that there are some components that could make this a really good bullpen to watch.
Hopefully the Houston Astros, when they start that 4-game series tonight, don't like the colder weather and they'll cool their bats off a little bit. Is that even possible?
Well, I remember last year when they were here in about this time of the year, I guess it was last year, and it was brutally cold. The temperatures were in the 30s. We're looking at 50 degrees or so here tonight. It won't be that bad. But I went up to Carlos Correa, and I asked him about playing in the cold, and he said, here's how bad it is for me. If I was a player in the Twins organization, I would ask for a trade. And that's so obviously he doesn't like the cold. It won't. It'll be moderate compared to what the Astros had when they were here last year.
Well, we got the first of 4 starting tonight. Should be a good series. It is fun to watch the Twins because it got to be blowouts at the end of the game, the last 2 games of the 3-game series last weekend in Houston. But I thought for the most part they did compete with the Astros.
Well, they get Verlander again tonight. And in the game down in Houston, he was matched up against Cole Stewart. Take nothing away from Cole Stewart. He might turn out to be a really good pitcher for the Twins. But that was a mismatch, certainly, in that game. And it'll be Jake Odorizzi going against Verlander tonight. And Jake's got a pretty good history against Houston. We'll hope he gives the Twins a real good chance to win again here tonight.
Very good. Have safe travels coming up this weekend in New York. Enjoy it and have fun this 4-game series, Dick. Do appreciate your time as always.
You got it, Derek.
You've got Dick Bremer with us again, the TV voice for the Minnesota Twins. Derek Hansen with you for our Twins weekend wrap and also looking ahead to the week that is upcoming, starting with tonight's game against the Houston Astros, the first of 4. Sponsored by Jefferson Lines. Jefferson Lines, your #1 bus experience for over 100 years, serving North Dakota and cities throughout the upper Midwest. This is the Drive Time News Hour. We'll wrap things up when we come back here on the mighty 790 KFGO.